Could you imagine Jesus dressed up as a demon-possessed clown? Or what about the Apostle Paul dressed up as a zombie? Or could you even imagine Mary dressed up as a wicked witch? G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Jasmine, and in today's video we are talking all things Halloween. But before I get into my answer as to whether Christians can celebrate this day or not, I first want to talk about the origins of Halloween. Now, if you're familiar with it, then you might already know a little bit about it, but basically Halloween stems back thousands of years ago to a pagan Celtic celebration where it marked the end of a season of harvest and a new year began. And during this particular time, people thought that the spirits of the dead and the spirits of the living would basically come together as one and walk on earth together. So basically the realm of the living and the realm of the dead would come together. They would basically merge, come together as one, and that they would walk the earth together. And some people even believed that this was a time where they could reach out and talk to their loved ones who had already passed away. Now, with Halloween, there are many different traditions that are associated with it. Obviously, you have the dressing up as, evil characters, whether it's vampires, demons, goblins, witches. And basically, during this particular time of this pagan festival, the people would dress up in these particular costumes so that they could disguise themselves, so that when the evil spirits came and walked on the earth, that they would basically blend in. So dressing up was a way for them to blend in and to look like them, so that the actual evil spirits would just think that they are one of them, so that basically those who were dressed up would be able to do as they needed to, and that the actual evil spirits would pass by and would keep going, so that they themselves would not be touched or approached. So that was the idea of dressing up as evil, demonic people. Now, obviously, you have the carvings of, pumpkins, turnips, radishes. Back then, I believe they used turnips and radishes. Obviously today now it's generally more, we see more of the pumpkins that are being carved and used for Halloween. And the idea behind that was that you could carve out the radish or the pumpkin, and you could use that as a light source, and also it was a way to drive out the evil spirits, so that they wouldn't touch you. They would turn the other way, so to speak. So that was a way to get rid of the evil spirits that were walking. Now, there's another story that is associated to the carving of turnips or radishes or pumpkins, and basically it stems down to a character called Stingy Jack or Stingy Jack. I don't know how you would pronounce it, but basically he outsmarts the devil so that he could avoid hell, but his sinful dealings also keep his soul out of heaven. And basically he is supposedly he supposedly roams the earth, and basically he uses a carved radish, I believe, or a turnip, and puts burning coal inside, and he uses that to light his way, to light his path. And the idea is that it is also supposed to help frighten away the evil spirits that are around during that particular time. So that's another story behind the carvings of pumpkins, or whatever they would use back then, turnips and radishes. Now, obviously, you also have the tradition of trick-or-treating, and basically trick-or-treating comes down to what is called souling. And basically people would go around from house to house, door to door, and they would ask for what's called like soul cakes, or sometimes it could be like biscuits, you know, sweet biscuits, sweet treats. And basically they would get these biscuits and cakes in exchange for prayers for people, prayers for the dead who are in purgatory. So that is the idea behind the trick-or-treating. Now obviously in today's society Halloween has evolved quite a lot. So nowadays it's really a day that is almost associated with a supposedly fun dress up kind of day where people would dress up normally in, you know, demonic figures, demonic kinds of, you know, people, vampires, witches and goblins and demons, you know, blood and gory things. And a lot of the time it's very much prevalent with families and young children, because they're the ones that are generally going from door to door trick-or-treating just for the sake of candy, really. Really, that's really what it's you know, mainly about with the trick-or-treating. It's really just to get sugar. You know, so obviously in today's society it has, you know, evolved quite a lot in what Halloween is today, but we really need to be asking ourselves the question, especially as Christians, whether it is okay for us to be rejoicing in this kind of activity, whether we should be taking pleasure in this kind of activity. You know, are we you know, asking ourselves the question, you know, would we see Jesus doing this? Would we see Jesus dressed up as a demon-possessed clown? Would we see the Apostle Paul walking around looking and dressing like a zombie? You know, would we really see someone like Mary answering her door dressed up as a wicked witch? Now, the Bible actually, you know, tells us that we are to have you know, no association with the unfruitful works of darkness. So in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, it says, "And do not participate in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead even expose them." So this passage clearly tells us that we are to have no association with the works of darkness, that we are not to participate in them. And if we are participating in Halloween and, you know, taking pleasure in this kind of activity, we're really going against what this passage says, and we're really violating this commandment. Now, another verse that we ought to remember is in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, and it says, "Whether then you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." So as Christians, we need to be asking ourselves the question, is this really glorifying God? Is dressing up in a vampire suit really something that is glorifying God? Is dressing up and going with other, you know, families just to get candy, dressed up as a devil, is that really glorifying God? If your house or front porch is decked out with all sorts of evil and statues of witches and demons and skulls on your door, then really we should be asking ourselves, is that really glorifying God? Is it really bringing glory to God if we are doing these things and participating in them? Now, some of you might try to say that you want to use Halloween as a way to evangelize, as a way to hand out gospel tracts for those that do come to your door. Now, if that's the case, well, I don't really see anything wrong with that. The only thing I would say is, if that's what you want to do, well, great, but don't do it with all the decorations around your house. Don't do it if your house is decked out with, you know, evil skulls and witches and, you know, vampires and things like that. You don't need the decorations. You know, as a believer, as Christians, we need to basically have like a clear distinction between good and evil in our lives, especially when we are trying to live lives that are holy and pleasing to God. Now, in Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13, it says, "Your eyes are too pure to see evil, Now, this is not saying that God can't see evil, but it's saying that he, cannot bear to look at evil. So when he sees Christians that are going around dressed up as zombies and vampires and demons and witches, it's not that he doesn't see them, but he cannot bear to look at that kind of wickedness. So if God cannot bear to look upon evil, then how can we as Christians go around and dress up like zombies and demons and witches? How can we as Christians do that? Now, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 14, it says, "When you enter the land which Yahweh your God gives you, you shall not learn to imitate the abominations of those nations." So in the same way that Israel was told not to participate in the abominations of the nations that were around them, then we too should not participate in the darkness of this particular celebration. Now, as Christians, we need to take death seriously. We are not to, take death lightly. And I think when we are Christians who are taking part in Halloween, we are almost making a mockery or a joke of death, and we're basically saying that death is not serious. And we really need to take a very serious approach, and we really need to be fleeing from this kind of evil, not having anything to do with it. Obviously, like I've mentioned, if you want to use it as a tool to evangelize to those that come to your door, great, but do it without all the evil that comes with it. So do it without all the decorations, do it without all the, glorification of death and, evil and wickedness. And just remember that everything that we do, we need to be living our lives so that we are holy and pleasing before God. We need to be looking away from, things such as Halloween, and remembering that everything that we do, we need to do it all to the glory of God. Anyway, I hope you've liked this video and have enjoyed learning something about Halloween, and I would love to know what your thoughts on celebrating Halloween is. So please do leave me a comment below. I love to read your comments, and you'll see me in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.